So this is Jen McCarthy, and she's the owner of Teacup Tiny Homes. And this whole podcast was started because there are so many business owners out there that are struggling, and we know that business can be better. And this is why we find people like Jen who have succeeded despite the statistics and what usually happens in businesses, and even through the last 3 years, have come out with, I don't want to say a great work-life balance, unless you tell me that, but, feeling good about all your relationships, feeling good about your business, feeling good about your family, feeling good about life. That to me is a good work-life balance. It doesn't have to do with the hours or the amount of time. And so I just really was hoping to share your leadership advice and how you started and became successful advice tonight. So let's have you introduce yourself so that I don't forget anything, and tell everybody a little bit about you, your background, your business.
Awesome. Well, I am Jen McCarthy, Jennifer McCarthy, whatever, known as Jen, Jenny, Jennifer, whatever. Call me what you shall. What's that?
Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block. That
Yes.
works too. Yes,
Okay.
widely known as that on my old baseball team. Yeah, circa 2004. So I'm sitting in my basement of my not tiny home. Of course, that's my number one question that I get asked is, do you live in a tiny home? And I'm like, no, why? And the biggest thing that people say when they ask me that, and I ask them why, is they say, oh, I don't know. I was just curious. And then they say, do you want to live in a tiny home? I'm like, no. And then they say, oh, well, then why do you build tiny homes? And I think that Teacup started really the same way a lot of businesses do, which is you believe that you can do something better, and you believe that there's a life that could be better, and maybe you've done a certain amount of things for a certain amount of time at a company you've been at, or whatever that looks like, and you do want to try and create something new and exciting. I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, no, I'm not going to sneeze. Okay, I'm fine. Don't worry. Anyway. So, with that being said, no, I think I entered into it just like everyone else. You want more time, you want more freedom, you believe that you'll be able to create something, and you have a passion for something. So my passion looked like I have an interior design background, I have a construction background. When I started Teacup in 2016, I had just the littlest amount of construction knowledge, of trailer manufacturing knowledge. I had all the construction knowledge. And to put those three together, it just made sense. So that's kind of where it started. And in, I think, 2015, I was still working at Avonlea. I was at Avonlea for 13 years before I started Teacup. That's Avonlea Homes. And there was a lot going through. A lot of people think that home builders make a ton of money, but to be very honest, they don't. And percentages were even lower a lot of the time. Or a lot of what was happening at that time, there were tariffs coming in, and we were seeing energy efficiency codes coming in. So we were having to add a lot extra to a house without people being able to see it. So without being able to see it, and it was such a new thing, then that pushed the cost to build up, of course, and then you didn't get necessarily the value on the other end. Or at that point in time, I don't think we even knew or were really aware that there are other ways to build value than just by the stuff you put in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all those types of things. So that happened, and I just thought that something needed to change. And this whole thing of chasing this American dream, that's actually too around the time when they started to do the stress test for financing and getting a mortgage. Thank goodness they did now, I guess, but there was a lot. So what it looked like when people could afford to buy or could get approved for a mortgage, we saw people and clients through the home building industry who, if they didn't hit that possession date, they no longer qualified, or something weird would happen. So it was, I just thought it's too much, it's too taxing. The time freedom that I was searching for, which I think I still do, came at that point in time because I had my son, and he was, I think, 18 months old or something like that. And I was running, I was teaching at the gym, I was working full time at Avonlea. We were dropping him off on the other side of town and picking him up. And so it was just this constant race. It was a race to get here and then race to get here and then race to get here and race to get there. And I just felt so bound by everyone else's schedule. Again, not realizing that that was ultimately under my own control, regardless of my situation. So I think that the rat race and the need to continually build and make and earn money to afford the things that you just spend it on is a really vicious cycle. And I think that it's breaking a lot of people, especially right now. And that's why I thought that a tiny home building company would be really good, because I had the design experience to integrate everything and make it functional within the home and make it look pretty and make it strong enough to drive down the road without anything flying off. And yeah, that it was super scary. And I went into it very naive, but here we are like 7 years later and it's been crazy. So
Yeah. 7 years later, I don't know. I think that was the part that just gave me goosebumps. But a lot of people, I think sometimes they just give up, and that's the only difference between us and them, like, yeah, we're still in business, but over the last however many years, there have been so many challenges, and some days it's just like, well, I didn't quit,
yeah.
But I'm guessing you have some more leadership tips than that, like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Tons of followers, tons of success.
Success is only what you define it as, right? So I know for me, I find it very strange when people say you're so successful. And I'm like, oh, what does that even look like? Like, I'm not. I have a mortgage. I have multiple mortgages, I guess, because lucky for me, being in the home building industry, you were able to buy homes. That's what you did. You bought homes, you built homes, you did the things. You still had to manage your money properly. But so yes, I have that. We have 2 vehicles. We have a healthy family. We have food on the table, and we have a beautiful home. So the definition of success is obviously different. But for me, the goals that I have, or the projects or the things that I want to achieve, I reevaluate them all the time. And I'm going, oh, right. You're always harder on yourself than anyone. So yeah, whether I think that that's okay, though, to be a driving force. And really that is what gets you up, and to have that vision, that broad vision at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day or whatever part of your day, all parts of the day. I have a giant Post-it on my wall where I do a brain dump pretty much twice a year. And it's just, I get all the ideas out. And if I go back and look at it once or twice, great. But the cool thing about that is that there's a vision. There's a vision that I've gotten all my thoughts out. They're written down. And then lo and behold, usually when I come back to it 6 or however many months later, I'm like, wow, we did like all of these things. There's only 2 left, and there's only 2 left to do. And then you create a whole new giant Post-it. And then the cycle continues.
How often do you look at that? You said you didn't look at it for 6 months.
Yeah, I often for me, it's when I get so much in my head and it's just like all jumbly and I'm like, holy, I just need some space. That's when I dump it. So it's a brain dump. It's not necessarily like they're not strategic goals. They are not there's not necessarily even strategy behind a lot of them. A lot of them, it's just like, I want to do this and I want to do this and this might be a good idea and this, and some things are like minor things that would take 5 minutes to complete, but they're just 5-minute tasks that haven't been completed. Or some of them are big projects that'll take a month or 2 months or 3 months, but it's almost like getting them out. Then you can release some brain space to find the creative capacity to then move forward with whichever one.
Yeah, I think there's like a stat that says you're 300% more likely to achieve, or maybe even 300 times more likely to achieve the things you write down.
Yes.
When we talk about vision, though, your vision for the company, do you have a vision for the company? Has it changed over the years? What does that look like?
It's gotten bigger. And what I love is, I mean, as you know, but for listeners, I did a lot of work with Bob Proctor Gallagher Institute. And Bob, actually, it was just his 1-year anniversary of when he passed. So that was like 2 days ago or something. But did a ton of work with Bob and his team. And And one of the things that they taught you was realizing that the brain is always for expansion. We as humans are wired to always grow and always expand. So that means that the thoughts that I will have, I guess the thoughts that I have today, I couldn't even have comprehended 3 years ago because my brain just wasn't there. And that's the thing, how your goals and your visions always change. That's why I find it so good to write those post-its down, because once they're out, then my brain can work on expanding. So where I was when I started, I mean, I think I had the goal to be building 5 tiny homes at a time. I drew a picture in my journal. I had 5 little like stick figure tiny homes lined up, and that's what I wanted. I drew the vision in my mind of 5 tiny homes and the back 40 in the yard and 5 sales and all those things. And now, well, our goal is to build 56. Like, now I want to do 56. And that went from really 5 to 15. It took us a few years to get to 15. And now we're at 56. So then knowing that goal, then your brain automatically, through your just what you do, your reticular activation system, basically, is that you go out and you will search for the ways to find the solutions to creating that. So it's a very, very interesting thing. And when you know how to utilize those little parts of our psyche to your benefit, then I guess it helps with the understanding and maybe that, again, that resilience side too, right? Because it almost just gives you that trust in knowing that if I just continue, I shall grow.
Wow, there's just too much to unpack there.
I know, it's a lot,
like,
and this is what I do.
Nugget. Okay, what was the most powerful thing that you learned from Bob Proctor?
Oh boy, that you are the only problem you will ever have, and you are the only solution.
Oh, so good. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I honestly don't understand after like, what has it been? Probably almost 20 years. So half my life I've been doing personal development, leadership training, constantly learning, learning from people like Bob Proctor, Brendan Burchard, or Tony Robbins, or love him or hate him. That's not what this is about, guys. But it blows my mind how, like, even the other day I was so upset about something and it was like, you're so sure it's the other person's thing, like, oh, if this person would just do that, or if they would just be this way, and I remember every single time I would be like, Tim, will you please come to counseling with me? I'd be like, okay, well, Tim's been doing this. And then she's like, okay, well, how could you be better? And I'm like, again? Like, every single time, how could I be better? It's like, I was really convinced this time that Tim could be better, but it's totally 1000% us. And that's actually good news because we can change things, right?
Exactly.
I don't think that you suffer with this, at least not that I've seen. But for me, there's like this balance between constantly learning, constantly saying we can do better, and telling my loved ones that, my clients, my teammates that, and forgetting to celebrate wins and maybe being too hard on myself versus being driven. And, I think when I was 12, I had a poster that said, sweat is just your fat screaming or something, or like pain leaving.
Crying. Yeah, it's crying.
Your body. Yeah, something horrible. And my mom was like, I don't think you should have that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to develop an eating disorder from that poster. You should take that down, Mom. But, so the whole like
the other millions of children that age, I'm pretty sure. Well, for starters, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So probably had the poster as well. But the drive behind it.
So how do you balance the two?
Well, I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. We'll end here. We'll end on that. That's my advice for the day. No, I'm just kidding. So I think that I've really tuned into myself, I guess. Especially in the last little bit, the last 2 or 3 years was really about getting to know myself more and looking at why I do things or why I feel a certain way I do about things. And it's not necessarily about figuring out why, it's just really bringing and noticing that you're doing it. So going back to, he's doing it, or, hubby's doing it or the kids or it's all there, and placing that blame. But really, anything that you see outwardly is just a reflection of how you view yourself. So whether it's this constant drive to do better or external validation or whatever that is, I think as long as you can recognize it, it doesn't mean that it's gonna go away. So that internal conflict is all about recognizing when it's happening or when something is happening and going, oh, right, I'm doing that. And then just kind of laughing and going on your way, going on with your day. So I like to call it, well, whether it's your ego, usually I call it ego. That's usually the reason why you drive, why you push so forward. Like ego would be in that poster of sweat is your fat crying or whatever, right? That would be, that's just such an ego-driven statement. And then when you start to be able to hear your ego as something that really is kind of trying to hold you back, or just trying to like have you succeed for not reasons that are full of love or truth. I mean, what is truth? That's a whole nother topic, but from the heart, basically, then I think that's where you go a little crazy if you can't realize that. And that's where you start to project externally, right? Mm-hmm. So the balance, I don't think that I'm balanced. I think that I try to be very intentional with everything that I do and making sure that there is intent behind my actions and my time. Now, that's not all the time. And I'm working at being better at 80%. Like eat very healthy. I do eat very healthy. Eat very healthy 80% of the time. So then you're not like so hard on yourself for that other 20% of the time when you're like surrounded by amazing people in a room and everyone's eating cheesecake and it just happens to be your favorite. Eat the freaking cheesecake, right? So it just doesn't matter. So give yourself a break, allow yourself to rest. And then when you want to drive and put your foot on the gas, put your foot on the gas. And when you don't want to, don't. And then you'll start to notice these natural cycles within you. And the more you notice them and recognize them, the more you can utilize them to your advantage in how you intentionally go throughout your days. I have no idea if that answered the question.
It was super powerful. It answered so many more questions than just, do you feel like you balance, or how do you balance the two? But I almost feel like if I hadn't learned so much, and I still feel like I will be learning forever and I won't even know 1% of what there is to know. But I feel like some people, or myself, my past self, wouldn't have been able to keep up with that conversation. And I would be like, what? So like, maybe we can talk about a couple of the first awarenesses that you had, and we'll give people a quick tip. And then we're going to be like, okay, guys, rewind this a few times, because
listen again. Yeah.
A small percentage of the population, and this is not an insult, guys, but it's taken 20 years for me to get to the place where I still have a mental breakdown yesterday. You know, like there's so much to learn, yet there's such simplicity in knowing that it's all about you and you're creating everything. But my past self, if I heard that, I'd be like, what the hell? Change the podcast, you know? I came here to learn about marketing, you know, but business owners, leaders, guys, your business is you.
Totally. And that's the biggest thing. Yeah. Yeah. Is that if you're not looking at yourself every single day and what you're doing as that business owner, your business is absolutely a reflection of you. So I believe that if we were, if you're working on yourself every single day, then that is going to feed into your business and the people around you and the people within, and it'll help you manage your day-to-day so much better.
And what's the easiest way that somebody could start working on themselves? If they're like, what, podcast, counseling, what are we talking here?
Yeah. So, and again, with that comment before about how your brain can only actually handle things when it's ready. So if you're tuning into this right now and you're listening to us and it makes sense and you're really like, yeah, I get it, then chances are you're ready for a lot of the other things, or your brain can recognize it. If you're not, then it might just be that you're not there yet. And And that doesn't mean, oh man, like I was looking at Google Ads and Google Analytics. I've been spending a lot of time there and I'm not there yet. Like I look at it and I start going cross-eyed, whereas other people are like, yeah, this is what this means. And I'm like, okay, I clearly have more learning because it still makes my head hurt. So I believe that we all have the things that we are very good at and ready for. And then it's just, as you adapt and grow, depends on what you can bring forward. So some of the few things on how to help yourself. I think that I love psychologists. I love psychology. I love therapists and therapy. I think it's a good starting point. It's something that's more mainstream. If we're not willing to look at the shadows of our life, if we're not willing to look at the dark, you will not find the light. And simply because you cannot have life without contrast. So when you are willing to look at the reasons why, or maybe it's a childhood trauma, or maybe something happened to you when you were younger, if there was trauma in your life when you were younger and a kid, you will be bringing that forward in your business. And it can look like a lack mindset where you never have enough money. It can look like you're a people pleaser where you're running around and you're just trying to serve everyone. Meanwhile, your tank of gas is completely empty. And for some reason, you think that by serving these people and doing everything for them and not yourself, that will make you better. They will like me. And when they like me, I'll be better. But it doesn't. It makes you tired and it makes it worse. I don't have that problem. I'm not a server. I have other problems. I'm not the do everything for everyone. And everyone, we need all the types of people, but we need to recognize why we're like that. So then we can kind of bring down the intensity a little bit. So then you can take care of yourself. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like 3 of my clients' coaching sessions and my last like 4 coaching sessions that I got from a coach, all in that one thought stream. And I think even counseling, I'm just thinking about one person in particular today that I had a good session with, but it was exactly what you said about the people pleasing and the not filling up your own gas tank. And then when you said gas, I was like, oh shit, I have no gas in my car. And my dad told me never to get gas or never to let the gas go between a quarter of a tank. And then I realized, oh my gosh, every time I'm like passionately coaching a client, I'm like, Kelly, listen, like you need to learn this. So there's just so many lessons around us. And I think just awareness, a counselor, a psychologist, a therapist, a coach, a book, a podcast, this podcast, like what you just said, so many things that you said could be that little crack, that little opening. And I get that too. I remember my first psychology class, like my first year of college, I was like, what? But if this is true and this is true and this is true and this is true and this, and I'm like, am I schizophrenic or bipolar? Like it was, and then I started reading more and I started learning about all of this that we're talking about today. And sometimes you're right. You're just like, and then you're like, oh yeah, business stuff. And there's like a billion things to do in your business. But I think we have to realize that we're never going to be done. We're never going to get our businesses perfect. We will never be perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. And I remember growing up thinking I'm going to prove my mom wrong because she's like, no one's perfect. I'm like, I will be. Like that was
Youchy.
Yeah. And I think too, guys, if you're listening and you're like, well, I didn't have a hard childhood. You still probably have some childhood trauma, like there was something that you perceived as a kid that messed you up. So deal with it.
I had a great childhood. Yeah. My childhood was amazing. I have my parents were together. There were 3 kids. We lived in a small town, but there's still these things that come up that you don't realize. Actually playing intramural sports. I played volleyball Monday nights with the most amazing women. But there can be one thing where I'm smacked right back into 16-year-old me on the volleyball court that shot my confidence to the ground. And it actually happened like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, what the hell? I think everyone thought that something happened to me, like I was hurt or mad or something, but I wasn't. I was processing so much in that moment. I should have probably just waited. Well, I mean, I kind of did. I was like, you must remember this feeling. Remember it's going through your mind. Make note, make note, make note. Okay, container. I say I put things in a container and save them for later. Put the lid on it, put it in the fridge. We'll deal with it when we get home. But yeah, it doesn't matter what you think happened in your childhood, because your brain, when you're a little kid, can only perceive so much. So, and it all just comes from that lens of being a child, instead of you can't comprehend adult things when you're only looking at them as a child. So if we're willing to do the work and we're willing to see that and open it up, yes, exactly. Your whole world could change. Like, some of the moments are just, Oprah calls it the aha moments, right? So it can change you that quick once you realize them and start to do the work.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's something I want everyone to really, really, really get. And something I have to remind myself of when I'm feeling overwhelmed or discouraged is you literally can change everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can change your mind and you can expand. And I'm trying not to use buzzwords like consciousness or enlightenment or things like that. I want to be so relatable. And I want to remember where I was when I first started my first business. But I also want people who are listening to this, if they're not ready, I really want to crack people open, because I have spent all of my career sticking to the mechanics of business and teaching leadership, but never talking about this, like that you're creating it all, well, I guess I have talked about that, but I try to kind of make it more relatable, more easy to understand. But when you just tell someone, yeah, you're creating this, that's like, sometimes it's just like, they're like, F you, like they're not ready for it,
No, it's true. It's totally true.
But what was your first book that opened you up? Like, I remember Maximum Achievement from Brian Tracy. My mom gave that to me when I was like 16. Man, do I wish I read that when I was 16. Probably didn't read it until I was 20. And I think that was my first taste of, that and one of Tony Robbins' first books. But it was just like, this is all you. This is your creation. This is all of it's you. And I was like, what the hell? And I wasn't ready until I was. And so what book, what's a first book for people they can like Audible or even find
actually, yeah, I think the first one for me, and this is kind of like just maybe the question's getting outdated, but the book The Secret, that is like, it came out on Oprah, I don't know, early 2000s or something, and that one just, it put it in a very easy way to comprehend. I was actually, oh my goodness, here we go, early 20s. I broke up with my high school sweetheart, or he broke up with me, and I was working and I was miserable and I was bitchy, for lack of a better word, and I thought that I had to defend and protect. I was always in this fight mode. I was very confrontational and just in a sad little place. And I read the book, I read The Secret, and it was kind of like, oh shit, you just have to think differently. You just have to think differently. You know how hard it is to just think differently? But what just thinking differently now that I've gone through, well, I guess that's been like 18 years of all the books and continually learning every day, is almost pre-scripting some mantras or something like that, so that when you recognize that you're kind of being, you're in your own head and you're being negative in your own head, then you can just say something that like kind of snaps you out of it. And that's one of my go-tos. And those always change depending on what is. Like, one mantra will work for you, just a sentence that you say. And it could be something as simple as, I love myself, I'm great, I am awesome. Like, it could be something that easy to just smack you out of it, and then you repeat it for however long you need to. And then eventually, the more you do that, I actually find myself waking up some mornings And because of a YouTube video that I would watch all the time, I'm like, this is the best day. Today is the greatest day. Today is a great day. It's a great morning. And I'm like, oh, and that's all being said in my head before I even realize that I'm awake, because you're just programming it into your brain. I'm sure if I said it out loud, hubby
Is it
would be like,
Abraham Hicks?
it is, yes.
I used to listen to that all the
It's the
time.
morning one. Yeah, exactly. It is. That's exactly which one it is.
You want to know something else
It's a good
crazy?
morning.
The Secret, I saw the movie, and it was at my
Mm-hmm.
lowest point in my life when I was like 20, I think, or 19 or 21. I honestly, how do people remember the years on everything? I don't, but it was like a lifetime ago, it feels like. But I remember seeing that movie, and that's the only reason I even opened that book or any other books. And it
Yeah,
was at the lowest point in my life, and I was ready to change or not be here anymore.
right.
And I saw that
Yeah,
movie, and I was like, what? And then it was like that concept of like everything can change in an instant because you can change your mind.
yeah,
And so maybe, maybe some people are listening and struggling and having a hard time, and maybe they need to hear that. Maybe they need to pick up The Secret or watch The Secret. Maybe they just need to know, like, don't give up, because you can change everything when
yeah.
you change your mind. Everything, guys. Yeah. And the whole reason I'm a business coach is because I got really good at running businesses, and I want people to be happy. I want to like drag them out of that dark place into the light, and I want to give them this stuff. But I do that through like business teaching, right?
Yeah,
And so I'm so glad this
right.
podcast went this way, because I'm always so focused on business, but business owners, leaders, your business will never be what you want it to be unless you're working on yourselves.
Yeah,
It's just you. It's a reflection of you. Everything is.
absolutely.
Yeah, wow. This was so packed with everything. What if people are listening and they're like, oh, I'm driving, I can't write this down. She said so much good stuff. I'll have to listen to this later. But what about something that they can take away that, they're going to remember, and maybe they can do it when they get home, or they can do it tomorrow, or they can share it with their team tomorrow, teach it to someone else? What would you say? Like, if there's only one thing you take from this, what would you take?
Yes. The action item, start looking up human growth and development or personal growth and development on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and be very, very extremely aware of what information you're absorbing. When you start listening to human growth and development reels and start speaking that language and hearing it, absorb that. Don't watch stupid shit about like that doesn't apply. Like,
The
sure, your
news?
brain needs a rest sometimes, but don't watch the news. Don't let other people's thoughts get in your mind. Start putting it on your phone. Google it. The fact that you're listening to this right now, personal growth mindset, and start listening to those things. Because and then when you start listening to those, all you need, and this is my rule, this is the one thing. The one thing is learn one new thing every day. So from those reels, when I'm getting ready in the morning, I just have YouTube on. Like, it
Yeah.
looks like, I don't know, Amanda Francis, if you know who that is. She's one of my favorites. She's so funny. She's a Valley girl, but she's lovely. Gabby Bernstein, it could be Bob Proctor, it
Yeah.
could be Tony Robbins, it could be Oprah. There could be those mishmashes, that's what I'm trying to say, mishmash of all the different people on the internet when they put them together and they do the cuts of the best
Oh,
things.
yeah. Tim showed me
So it
those. They're
doesn't,
amazing.
yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, just start listening to those and feed your brain with that, because they actually will motivate you and kind of spark something inside of you at the same time.
I love that so much. And it has to be said that TV, most social media, almost 100% of shows, almost 100% of social media, probably 98% maybe. Normal people, probably your family and friends, so many people are filling your head with garbage. And so many
Yeah,
people are focused on the wrong things. And there are some things that you want in your life, you think you want them, but none of that matters if you don't have like health, mental health, and like peace of mind. None of it matters. So that's what you have to find. And all that other stuff will come. because that's the whole thing. The whole thing is your mind and feeling good, and everything else is just stupid.
Well, it is, but it's very real. It is, but it's very real because I mean, in the tiny home industry, of course, I loved what you said earlier about how business coaching is the way that you want to help people be happy, which was so funny as you were talking. I was thinking it's basically a conduit, right? Because it's the same thing for me. Why tiny homes? Because I believe life can be better. I believe that if we simplified life, removed the amounts of maintenance that we have to do and laundry and putting away the things and cleaning after the kids and just like the amount and volume of utility bills and payments that you have to make. If you removed like 60% of that in a tiny home and made your life uber functional, you would have all this space for all this other stuff, which means you could focus on what you enjoy instead of focusing on waking up and going to work every day and then coming home and making dinner and the wheel. So if you can focus on that by removing external clutter and noise, then you'll be happier. So what I feel is everything that we do, there's a purpose for it. And the more, again, to be cliche and use a buzzword, the more enlightened you become by doing the work and the personal growth and development work, then you will see that you probably created your business to serve others for that exact same reason, because you believe whatever you have will make other people happy. And you are just the conduit for that. So you have to put that power in, you have to not stop. And if it looks hard, and if today is tough and tomorrow's tough, and if the next day looks tough, that's okay too, because ultimately you're serving the people and you're giving them something that you wish someone could give you. And by doing that and giving back to the people and serving the population, serving humanity and serving the universal love again, then that's how you just wake up and keep going and build that resilience and be able to build a 7-year, 10-year, 5-year company that has its ups and downs and roller coasters, just like every other day in life does. So.
Wow, I can't believe you tied that all together so beautifully. That was a really, really, really perfect. I was like, wow, she brought that back around to business because I forgot we were talking about business. Good job, Jen. Thank you. Yeah, you're amazing.
A good old circle back. We love that.
Yeah, that was perfect. I was like, oh, what am I doing here? My procedure. So thank you so much for being here. Hey, tell everybody. No, seriously, look at this, guys.
Yeah,
procedures, like they're necessary, but sometimes they just let you down. And anyways,
the procedure, but know that you can sometimes have fun without following the procedure.
Please have fun. That's my favorite culture statement here. I said that to the girls the other day. Like, if we don't have smiling and laughter in our business, shut it down. Like, what are we doing here? So,
exactly.
Can you tell everyone where they can follow you, please?
So absolutely. Teacup Tiny Homes is on Instagram, TikTok. We have an amazing website, teacuptinyhomes.com. And my personal Instagram not hashtag. You could hashtag it, I'm sure. I don't know what you would get. So it is my, what is that called? Like, what is the @ called?
Handle?
My handle. Thank you.
You're usually the younger, more savvy one of the two of us.
Oh, God.
Oh, you just made me look good and I ruined it. Oh, and I'll teach you Google Analytics, I promise.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My my Instagram handle is The Real Jenny McCarthy. So yeah, it's not active all the time. It depends on the amount of creative space that I have. But yeah, Teacup is definitely where it's at. We have a lot of fun over there too. And yeah, it's a fun ride.
Your personal handle or account is more about the stuff we talked about today with personal development and just authentically you and your life. And so I don't know, if I were listening, I would follow all of those guys. And just remember, the whole purpose of this. And thank you, Jen, so much. And thanks to our team if they're listening so much. Thanks to our clients. Thanks to everyone who's listening. Just for wanting the world to be a better place, for wanting yourself to be better, for being willing to be better. I usually tell my leaders, like, All you need is that one quality, that willingness to be better, and we're going to get you there. So congratulations on being that person, guys. And I guess we have to let Jen go now. So thanks for being here. Just don't forget that business can be better, guys, and life can be better. So don't give up. Crack yourself open.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jen. Bye.
Bye.